In our last session, we established that our attention is the treasure that companies, especially tech companies, are striving to attract and keep. And that in capturing our attention, they are also presenting powerful views of the good life. So we need to be very deliberate and intentional about what we give our attention to. Perhaps we shouldn't give it away so easily. Perhaps we should step back and think more deliberately about how to allocate our attention. And that is the topic of this episode of Consider This. This is not a new problem, but it's taken on different dimensions since 2007. Because it's not a new problem, we have some ancient wisdom to help us frame up the issues. In this case, St. Augustine of Hippo has perhaps given us the best framework to think about this. Augustine famously said it this way: God has made us for himself, and our hearts are restless until they find rest in him. He went on to say that the good life consisted of rightly ordered love. To love things in the right order so that you do not love what is not to be loved, or fail to love what is to be loved. To recognize what ought to be loved more or less, and to align one's affections in accord with the relative merit of the thing itself. So here's the issue. Some people say that technology is neutral. But the reality is that while the wires and connections and chips are neutral, the operating systems, the companies that organize our technological world, and the advertisers, entertainers, and artificial intelligence algorithms that run the tech world are not neutral at all. They're tilted and organized towards taking our restless hearts, our everyday desires for the good life, and offering to fulfill them with their stuff. In other words, if we don't deliberately work at ordering our loves according to God-given and God-directed goods, then an ever-present attention grabber in our pocket will order our desires and loves according to its own interests. And what's changed since 2007 is that these offerings that vie for our attention are ever-present on demand. Over the Christmas break, I was having dinner with my son. We both had COVID, so we were isolated together, and we were eating a meal. I noticed that both of us were scrolling through our phones while we were eating. So I said, "Hey, we should put down our phones and talk to each other." My son said, "Well, you weren't making any conversation." It's true, I was just chewing. In our defense, we were sick, so we weren't at our best. But it did get me thinking about the importance of having an explicitly understood practice of putting the phone away when you're having a meal with someone. In fact, it's a great question to ask. When do you put away your phone? That's a good measure of what's more important to you than your phone. And what my son and I were doing when we were eating was taking the best offer for our attention, the most entertaining, the easiest. I know that having a meal with my son and relating to him face to face is much more important than anything I could have been reading as we scrolled through our phones. But it takes deliberate practice. And it's not just that I needed to put in more effort to make myself more engaging in the conversation. The conversation at the table will not always be more scintillating and exciting than what is on offer on the phone. In fact, it usually won't be. But there's a greater good that requires deliberate prioritization and commitment, usually of the parents. That is a commitment to sharing a meal together in which we put aside other entertainments and look at each other in the eye, talk to each other, and allow for silences and contributions from the more quiet ones, and for items of concern and care to emerge, and to share funny or sad moments as a family. That is what we lose when we have the phone at the table. And it's a huge loss. It's not the most entertaining thing to choose, but it's the more valuable. So then, the issue of technology in the home is primarily, for Christian parents, one of ordered loves, of deliberate intentional thinking and practice and habits, resisting the ever-present, always beckoning entertainments of the phone, and prioritizing other goods. Where our attention is, there our heart will be also. You say, well, how? I was hoping you'd give us some tips to make things easier, but you've just made things harder. I have two things to say to encourage you in this process. First of all, you don't have to have the resources of a big tech company to influence your children. I realized when my son watched the Pirates of the Caribbean all those years ago that he would imitate Jack Sparrow the pirate for a few weeks, but he imitates me and his mom for a lifetime. Your kids will take in what is valuable to you, they will absorb it, and they will imitate you. Believe me, I see your kids every day at school. They not only look like you, they talk like you, they act like you, they even have the same mannerisms that you have. That is a little scary, but it's also a gift. God has put you as the primary influence in their life. If you're seeking to love the things that are most worthy and align your affections with those things, that will work itself out in the habits of your home and your children will imitate you. That is good news. But you realize, I need help with this. That's the second thing I have to encourage you with. There are other like-minded parents who are also seeking to be deliberate about grounding their family's view of the good life in the life of following Christ, and not letting it be shaped by default by entertainment and advertising companies. You need partners to help you with this. You need a good church that's feeding you well in this process. And you need a school that is supporting you and your church in this. It is not easy, but it's worth it. Let me leave you with some practical ideas. One idea is to ask yourself, when do I turn off my phone or put it away completely? The only way to know that you value something more than your phone is when you turn it off and put it away. Another practical suggestion would be to make a list of activities, goods that you would want your family to spend your time and attention on. On my list would be having meals together, doing anything with my family or friends face-to-face, reading, time outside in nature, fishing. Going to church or serving is also on that list, but not because it's my natural instinctive desire. Some of the things that are most worthy of our love will not be there by natural desire. These are loves that need to be cultivated and nurtured. That is our role as parents, not to help our children figure out how to fulfill all their desires, but to lead them in cultivating their desires, or as Augustine put it, in ordering their loves around the things which are most worthy of love. And to know that their hearts will be restless until they find rest in Him.